So we've been walking around for 2 hours asking people about happiness on a Saturday evening in Oslo just before Christmas. And it's been a very different experience from the ones before because people have been a bit drunk and a bit more talkative. And yeah, so we started off at the Oslo S and we went inside Østbanehallen, and the first people we talked to were these 3 people from the Philippines, or at least one of them was. And we asked her, "Are you happy?" And she said, "Yes." And we asked, "Why?" "Because I'm going home for Christmas, or just after Christmas, I'm going home to see my children," which was very moving. She was quite young. I wouldn't have thought that she even had kids, so she's obviously working in Norway to get money. And all 3 of them said that they were really happy, and Norway was such a happy country and one of the happiest countries in the world, and they loved being here and everything was happy, and why shouldn't you be happy in Norway? And then they started talking about Christmas, and that actually maybe Christmas wasn't so nice in Norway because it's very family orientated and a bit exclusive, yeah. So that she celebrated Christmas in Norway last year, and it was a bit boring, she said, or a bit lonely maybe, or she didn't really like it that much because there was like nothing to do. But she was going to give it another chance this year and try and celebrate Christmas again and then go back home for New Year's Eve, because the fireworks are far better in the Philippines. And then we walked further in, and then we met these 2 women in their 40s. One was from Austria and the other one was from Chile. And we asked the woman from Austria if she was happy, or I asked. And she said yes, because I am myself. And there was something about her as well, where she said it. And Kaja was really moved. She almost started crying because she felt she could relate to that, being happy by being allowed to be herself. And her friend said she was happy because she was with her best friend. And also she talked about that Norway was an easy country to be happy in, because coming from Chile that was like harder. But she also talked about this research done that I think it was Colombia maybe, that was that she'd heard was the country with the happiest people, and that was not because of what they had but because of family, because they had people who cared about them. That was the most important thing. And they were talking to us in Norwegian, so we stopped just to kind of translate what they were saying into the microphone. And as we were talking about that, we were like attacked by this couple who was really drunk and just kept shouting like Manchester football, and said, "How so? Are you happy?" And they were really happy because they were together, and they were going to. He was happy that he was with her, but we shouldn't tell his wife, which was and with her because she liked, as he said, she liked banging. And we started laughing, and Kaja said, "Well, that's okay, you know, banging's okay." And he said, "So do you want to join us?" So she was actually invited to a threesome, which is quite interesting. And we was like, "Yeah, no, that's fine." And so they talked, and the woman said something about making your own happiness, that everybody should claim their own happiness, that you have responsibility to make your own happiness. And then we walked into Karl Johan and we asked this kid if he was happy, and he said yes, and we asked him why, and he was a bit like, he didn't know what to say, but he kept looking at his Coke. So I think that he was really happy that his dad had bought him a Coke, but he felt it was a bit stupid to say that. And he looked at his hamburger and he was like, "Yeah, I'm happy." So, but he didn't really know why, but we think that he was happy because of the Coke. And they were also here for the football. There were a lot of people in Karl Johan who was here for the football match, and there were a lot of people who were really happy and just saying that they're happy because they're drunk. And there was this one girl who said she was happy because she was drunk and alcohol made her happy, and we asked her why, and she said because it made her do things that she wouldn't normally do. It made her braver, and she relaxed more. And then we asked her what about the next day, what was that like, and she said she was not so happy then because she had this fylleangst, drunken anxiety, scared of what she'd done the night before. And she also said that it was a good thing being drunk, but you had to be drunk enough, because if you didn't drink enough, then you could turn around and be unhappy. So you had to drink a lot to be happy. And as we were talking to her, or translating what she said, these guys just came, 18-year-old boys, just jumped us and say, "Oh, are you from the NRK? Are you from the national television? Yeah, we want to talk to you." And they were just like shouting, and one of them shouted that alcohol makes me happy, alcohol is happiness, and all. But then this one guy started talking about his dad died a year ago, and he was quite cute. He was a young boy, but he said actually he didn't know his dad really well. So when his dad died, he inherited a lot of money, and that made him happy. Not that he was happy his dad died, but still, the money made him happy. And there was this guy next to him, and he just kind of hugged him and kissed him and said, "This guy makes me happy, because look at him, he's so beautiful, and who wouldn't be gay looking at him," or something like that. And then he walked off, and the beautiful boy started talking to us about how you shouldn't be too happy, because if you're too happy, then you get really sad. That the best thing was to find the golden middle way. So we talked to him about if he was like into Buddhism or, but he'd been thinking a lot about this, and he was really quite young, so that was a nice conversation. And we kept walking and walking, and and then we had a little break, so we went into a pub, and then we asked the guy who worked in the pub if he was happy, and he said that he was very happy because he was in Norway, because he'd come from Syria, and he said, and in some countries like Syria it's really hard to be happy, and that in Norway it's impossible to starve. You don't starve in Norway, not like you do in third world countries. So he was happy that he was able to be here and have a wife and a son, and to work in a pub, and they had a really good life and a happy life in Norway. And then went into the street, and we met these like 25 guys with these Santa Claus hats saying 12 pubs for Christmas, and they were taking selfies, and they wanted us to be in selfie. So they took this picture, and we asked all of them, like, "Are you happy?" And they all shouted all together, "Yes," apart from one who shouted "no," like several times. Oh, there's a woman who fell, watching her phone, but now there's a guy helping her, so I think she might be okay. So I'm a bit distraught now, but yes. After that we spoke to a policeman. These got several policemen like joking together, and could we ask you a question? And they said, yeah, go on. And we asked one of them, "Are you happy?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm happy." And then Kaja asked him why, and then he got really uncomfortable, and his colleagues just started like rolling up the windows, and some of them walked away, and then he said, "Yeah, no, we really have to work, you know." So so he wasn't comfortable answering our question. And then the last person I remember is this guy, a Spanish guy, who asked him if he was happy, and he said he couldn't speak Norwegian, and he didn't speak German, and he didn't speak... We didn't have a common language, but he spoke in Spanish. So we just said, "Well, tell us in Spanish." And so he did. He had this beautiful speech in Spanish that we didn't understand a word of, apart from Norway and being cold and Christmas. And he seemed really, really happy, but we don't know what he said. So I think, did I forget something important? No? I think that was it. It's been a really nice night. Yeah. With lots of very open people, drunk people. And I think the woman in the background is okay now, so we don't have to worry anymore. Thank you very much.